Now, across Texas, the issue is.
I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas.
I'm Rudy Koski in Austin.
And I'm Greg Grugan in Houston, and this is Texas, the issue is.
For multiple weeks, we have seen pro-Palestinian protests on college campuses. North Texas Congresswoman Beth Duyne has a bill that would make it a revocable offense for anyone arrested who's not from here, arrested and charged in one of these protests. I talked to her earlier this week.
When you come to America from a foreign country, the rights that you have is fairly limited. It's not like you've got constitutional protections. When you come here and you spew American hate, when you spew hate against the Jewish people, when you insist and make demands that we support Hamas terrorists that have committed the worst atrocities against the Jewish people since the Holocaust, you don't deserve to stay.
Would you agree that everyone that are participating in these protests are not for Hamas? They are for a ceasefire. They are for, just ending this war and not killing innocent people on either side. Do you believe that everyone who is at a pro-Palestinian rally is somehow supporting Hamas?
I think there's a lot of people at these rallies that don't know what they're supporting. They're there because they think it's cool. They're there because organizers are telling them to go on campus and they're just doing it. Somebody described them as useful idiots. In some examples, that's true. So no, do I believe they're all like that? No, but if you are here from a foreign country and you're spewing hatred against the American people and you're spewing hatred against the Jewish people and you're supporting terrorist activities and you're committing a crime while doing it, I don't think you deserve to stay in this country, and this is what this bill promotes.
Some could call this a racist bill. I mean, some could say that, saying why are you just targeting people who are not native to this country? I mean, there are students or U.S. citizens who are participating in this, so why just target people who are not from here?
There's one thing to say it, but there's another thing actually to commit a crime on a university campus. I don't think that's a racist behavior. I think people who commit crimes, regardless of color, regardless of ethnicity, where they're from, the language that they speak, the religion that they practice, should be held accountable. So I think, saying that it's somehow racist is wrong. But if you are in this country, there should be a certain amount of respect that you have for American laws. And if you are already willing to completely throw that to the wind and preach American hate against the Jewish people, in support of terrorist activities, you do not deserve the rights and the privileges of being in our country.
And I know you recently voted against the massive spending aid package that included funding for Ukraine and included a TikTok ban. Tell me why you voted against it.
Well, there's a number of bills that we had, and the one against, for Taiwan I supported, the bill that supported Israel I supported, the bill on Ukraine I did not support, because we are at desperate times right now at our southern border, and we are trying to do everything that we can to make sure that we get the policies that have allowed 11 million people into our country illegally changed. And that bill, which is so supported by Democrats who, within the language of the bill of Ukraine, talk about how important it is to maintain the borders in Ukraine, don't seem to have that same respect for our borders in the U.S. It was an opportunity to be able to attach the H.R. 2 bill that we passed, our strong border bill that we passed through the House last year, over a year ago. We had an opportunity to be able to attach it to a Ukraine bill because that's what Democrats are pushing for. So it would have been a compromise. We would have gotten support for Ukraine, but we also would have gotten support at our southern border, which is so lacking. And I could not vote for one without the other.
Where do you stand when it comes to confidence in Speaker Mike Johnson? Do you still have confidence in him?
Look, I think Mike is taking the hand that he's got, and he's having to go into the Senate. He's having to go negotiate with Chuck Schumer and with the Biden administration. And he realizes that, he does not necessarily always have the votes that he needs to be able to provide him coverage to be in the best negotiating power. So, I have full support in Mike Johnson. He is doing the best he can in a bad situation. And there's a lot of people you couldn't pay to do that job right now. He's stepped up, and I think he's doing a great job.
Rudy, what do you think of that interview? What's your one word?
My word is Newton.
All right, Greg, what about you?
Stephen, my word is consequences.
All right, the Fox Texas Trio has a lot to discuss on the other side of this break. We'll be right back. The Fox Texas Trio is back. Rudy, while there were laws broken during some of these protests here in Texas and around the country, Is this bill too extreme?
No, Stephen, I think what we're seeing is a call to have some real consequences, to borrow Greg's word, to acting out, not just speaking out. In a way, it's about the third law. I'm not talking about a law that you're going to find in a courtroom, but the one given to us by Sir Isaac Newton. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Now, there's some real political science application to the issue is, and there's my word. On a serious note, even here in Austin, people are just getting tired of seeing judicial slaps on the wrist and excuses for those who break the law. But under the current conditions, this deportation bill from Van Duyne will probably go the way of the Laken-Riley Act. That's the bill which would require the detention and removal of illegal aliens who commit crimes. It cleared the House in March with the help of 3 Texas Democrats, Allred, Cuellar, and Gonzalez. But it's notable that 170 House Democrats voted against that bill, and it got blocked by Democrats in the Senate. So right now it looks like, here's my theory, extremism plus political rhetoric still equals gridlock.
Greg, is this just red meat for the base?
Absolutely red meat, but it's also legitimate representation. I frankly don't know how many foreign students actually participated in the campus protests, but I do know the ones that did are first and foremost guests in this country. I don't think I'm going too far out on a limb to suggest a majority of Americans believe any guest in their home, their business, or their schools for that matter, who choose to destroy property, abuse others, or simply misbehave should be subject to immediate eviction, expulsion, and legal sanction if necessary. So the fundamental question becomes, should foreign students who've been granted the privilege of pursuing education here be granted special dispensation to riot, harass, and vandalize and defy authority without serious consequence? The Congresswoman says they absolutely should not, and I'll venture to say she's got plenty of company from Americans of all political persuasions. So Van Duyne may not prevail in Congress, but scores a grand slam in the court of public opinion.
And let's be clear, there is a different conversation in free speech and what some of these allegations and incidents have been. Free speech is welcome on college campuses, but the encampments and things like that have violated laws which resulted in these trespass charges. Now, Rudy Koski, I will ask you this. Now, is this just a flashpoint right now that we're experiencing, or will we see more pro-Palestinian protests into November?
Yeah, you know, Stephen, just to throw back to Greg, what he said, I like that word that he used, guest. That's also a good, strong, powerful word for what's going on here, and something to remember. It's also important to understand, regardless of where you stand in any protest rally, the battle could end right now if Hamas turns over the hostages, ends right now by stop firing missiles into Israel, and ends if the leaders of this terror group surrenders. Now, otherwise, I see this conflict just continuing. And here, despite the summer break, school's out, I expect protests will also continue with more isolated, organized rallies, as well as some smaller disruptions at, let's say, sporting events and even holiday observances like the 4th of July. What do you think about that?
I was about to say, and this pivots perfectly to Greg, with it getting ready to be graduation. I know the University of Texas graduation is this weekend, and other large colleges. With students not being on campus, Greg, will we continue to see this in some form heading into November, or is this the least of things?
I think we're going to see it. I think it's going to be a big issue this fall. To what degree depends on if the Gaza protests linger on. It's bad news for President Biden on multiple levels, and that could easily happen with an Israeli military campaign against Rafah and substantial loss of life. In that scenario, the president is likely to suffer further erosion from hyper-progressive younger voters, as well as Muslim voters in swing states like Michigan, who could just decide to sit out the election. And if Biden refuses to condemn and essentially crack down on campus speech interpreted as pro-Hamas, he risks losing lots of Jewish votes as well. So lots on the table there, guys.
All right, that's all the time we have. To see this episode or any of our past ones, go to our station's YouTube channels.
Keep the conversation going by interacting with us on social media.
And we'll be back next week with another hot button political topic. Until then, Don't forget to let us know what you think the issue is.